Thanks, Chair.
6.5 minutes.
Thanks a lot. What we have in black and white in the Ombudsman's report is very significant evidence and confirmation of collusion by the British state with loyalist paramilitaries in murdering people repeatedly. The point has been made that this is far, far more than a few bad apples. It is, or it was, clearly government policy. It was systematic, it was deadly, and it has been covered up, and it continues to be covered up, and those responsible continue to have impunity. It's worth going through some of the cases. Many have been mentioned, just to bring out the horror of this behaviour by a supposedly democratic state. So the report, in particular into 11 murders by loyalist gangs, found that there was police involvement and police inclusion. Again, it should be mentioned, because people can think this is something that happened in the kind of dim and distant past, which obviously wouldn't make it okay, but we're talking about atrocities that go into the 1990s. So in relation to the Sean Graham killings, the Ombudsman found that the police colluded in the massacre at the Bookies in 1992, where 5 people were killed, including one 15-year-old. They found that the police deliberately destroyed files on this attack, protecting those responsible. In other cases, the RUC quite literally handed guns to loyalist terrorists, guns that they went on to use to murder. And that's the definition of collusion: criminal conspiracy of state forces working hand in hand with terrorist gangs. State-sponsored serial killers is what the former police ombudsman called some of the police agents in loyalist and Republican groups. Individuals were allowed to kill with impunity so long as they remained of use to the British state. One example from 1971 is the loyalist bombing of McGurk's Bar, which killed 15 civilians and injured 17 more. Years later, a member of the covert military reaction force admitted that they had supplied the explosives, encouraged the attack, believing the bar to be a Republican hotspot. In another case, the police ombudsman highlighted the 1993 killing of Damien Walsh, a 17-year-old young man shot dead by loyalist paramilitaries. The report found, quote, significant investigative failures, end quote, by the police, amounting to, quote, collusive behaviours. It said Walsh's killers were, quote, provided with information by a police officer and British intelligence which informed their attack, end quote. Damien's mother, Marion, had campaigned for nearly 3 decades, questioning the role of the police in her son's shooting. The Ombudsman's report found police had also, quote, failed to capitalise on investigative opportunities, including failing to arrest suspects, and had made a deliberate decision to disregard intelligence about the threat. In another case last year, a judge found that, quote, until late 1973, an understanding was in place between the RUC and the Army, whereby the RUC did not arrest and question or even take witness statements from soldiers involved in shootings such as this one, end quote. The judge added, this appalling practice was designed, at least in part, to protect soldiers from being prosecuted, and in very large measure, it succeeded. And now the Prime Minister of Britain, Boris Johnson, wants to stop any more investigations like this, to stop more horrors being uncovered. They're proposing to close down all investigations into the collusion between the British military and police forces and loyalist terrorist groups. They're planning to end all inquests into killings that have been ordered by the Attorney General of Northern Ireland, as well as all investigations by the Police Ombudsman, even those where grave and exceptional new evidence of police misconduct has emerged. On top of that, they are seeking to end all civil actions being pursued through the courts by families seeking disclosure from the Ministry of Defence and others on evidence of collusion between state forces and paramilitaries, as well as investigations being conducted by the Legacy Investigation Branch of the Police Service of Northern Ireland, which considers historical cases of killings. This includes cases such as Soldier F, who has been charged with murders on Bloody Sunday in 1972 and the death of a man with mental disabilities killed by soldiers. The UK Government's proposals would mean families who may already have attended up to 30 preliminary hearings will now be told the inquest itself cannot go ahead. This is a cover-up, plain and simple. I want to finish with reference to another cover-up, and that is the attempts to protect General Mike Jackson from prosecution for his role in the Bloody Sunday massacre. He was second in command of the 1st Battalion of the Parachute Regiment and would later climb up the ladder of the British Army to become the Chief of Staff at the time of the invasion of Iraq. I was at a demonstration in Derry to mark the 50th anniversary of the murder of 14 people. Immediately after the Bloody Sunday massacre, Jackson interviewed his soldiers and drew up a shot list of where the shootings had occurred. It was a piece of fiction, but it became the basis for the original Widgery report, which whitewashed the Parachute Regiment. The mood at that protest I was at a couple of weeks ago was focused on the call for the prosecution of this man, General Sir Mike Jackson. Not only did he help to organise the massacre, but he was also the key figure in covering it up. That is why he must be brought before the courts to answer for his crimes. And there is an important political point here, where the British establishment likes to portray the conflict in the north as a war between two tribes where their army becomes supposedly piggy in the middle. But Bloody Sunday arose because of a cold-blooded decision of the British establishment to suppress a mass movement for civil rights. Correctly, everybody has agreed that there must be no immunity given to the soldiers involved. But the real criminals are those who also gave the orders to shoot. Let's start by putting them in the dock.